Hey, welcome to Mama's Place Studios. This is New York City Radio, and I'm your host, Dave Lee.
Speaking of the 80s, actually, yeah, I think this qualifies. First Robocop was late 80s, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I watched Robocop 3, which came out in 1993.
He was state-of-the-art in law enforcement technology.
Frank Miller's Robocop.
And oh my God, is it written by Frank Miller? It's directed by
Frank Miller wrote it.
Fred Decker. Oh, yeah.
Fred Decker, who directed Monster Squad.
Yeah. Who's actually a really cool director.
Is that the one with the kid?
This is the one with the kid who's the hacker, and it's the one with the cyber ninjas.
Oh, yeah, that was bad.
It was really bad. I'm gonna say that it's still a little better than the reboot, because fuck that reboot. That's all I have to say about that. But Fred Decker also did Night of the Creeps, which is one of my favorite horror films ever. He also did House. Let's see. He wrote House, or did he direct it? Oh, he directed Tales from the Crypt, Monsters. Okay, he wrote House.
You said Roadhouse?
The movie House, the horror film House.
Oh, I thought you were talking the Roadhouse was like Patrick Swayze.
Oh, no.
I thought you were talking about the TV show about a doctor.
Roadhouse is not a good movie.
Get the hell out of here. You didn't like Roadhouse?
We've talked about this on the podcast. Roadhouse is not a good movie.
Oh, man. Roadhouse is one of those movies that's so bad that it's good.
No, it's so bad it's bad. And it is dripping with...
Semen?
Yes, some would say semen. Homosexual overtones. Like, it is just... There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just so funny that this late 80s was supposed to be a macho movie, and it's just like so not macho.
I don't know. I could, if it's on, I'll sit down and watch Roadhouse. That movie is so bad that it's good. How could you not?
That's like Top Gun is like that.
Exactly.
See, I gotta see it again. I feel like I'd have a good time watching it. It's gotta be goofy.
Oh, and Mijo, you know, what's the guy? Sam, whatever his name is, the dude. He's like always
the Sam Elliott.
Yes, Sam Elliott.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, RoboCop 3, not much to say. It is not a good film by any stretch. The Peter Weller is not RoboCop in it, and the movie starts probably about half an hour. RoboCop shows up, gets into a fire, and then his face is like covered in soot for a good portion. And I feel like they're just trying to do everything they can to de-emphasize the fact that RoboCop is not RoboCop.
It takes RoboCop 30 minutes to get into his own movie.
Yeah, it's really something special. Though, who was in that was Daniel von Bargen, who was actually in a film I did called London Betty, which was cool to see.
That was one of your first films, wasn't it?
No, it was like maybe fifth or sixth.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a few in. It's one of the first watchable films. So I had that going for it. But RoboCop 3, not a good film. Do not recommend it. Though there's not that many RoboCop films, so you kind of have to fucking watch it. I mean, don't you? To just know how bad it can get, you know?
It's kind of like the box set, so it's in there. And
you have the box set?
Yeah. Because RoboCop 1 and 2 is great. Like, I love RoboCop 1 and 2.
Did it have shitty animation?
Did it have shitty animation?
Well,
you might
they all have
the
the stop motion.
The stop motion, yeah.
Oh, there's also the TV show.
I always use this guy Fred Decker as an example, of if you had if you were directing, right, and so you direct Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad. Monster Squad, beloved cult film, and super well made, but I guess kind of fucked his career up. They say he could not, for the love of God, get a directing gig after that. He did a Tales from the Crypt, and then he did a bunch of writing. But so the Monster Squad was 87, so doesn't direct until 93. So I'm wondering if the conversation goes, okay, do you want to direct RoboCop 3? And he's like, well, I don't know. I haven't done anything in years. Is Peter Weller in it? No. And he says, yeah, that sounds good. And it's pretty horrible. And he must read the script, go, okay, cyber ninjas. Okay, Robocop has a jetpack. Main character is a child. The question I pose to you guys is, do you take the gig? Do you do it?
I'm a whore, so I probably would have done it. I mean, it's try to make the best of a really bad situation, I guess. And it's not that many people get directing gig. I mean,
yeah, 6 years basically.
Right.
He waits 6. I mean, he does Tales from the Crypt, but that's one TV episode.
And you think, I mean, it was written by Frank Miller, so the thought would be that the writing is probably. See, probably I don't know if he actually read the whole script or what he was in the script when he read it. But I mean, the thought would probably be like, oh, we got Frank Miller. He wrote the script. And he's like, oh, Frank Miller. Maybe he knows who Frank Miller is. I mean, I guess because Frank Miller maybe in the early '90s is not as well known as he is definitely now. Like he's more well known. That he was coming off of the Dark Knight. In the comic book world, he was the man.
In the comic book world, he was a god.
He's a god. But outside of that, in Hollywood circles, he might not have had quite the cachet, but he might have. And so, he might have been like, oh, fuck, I can direct this movie that Frank Miller wrote, Robocop 3.
Robocop 1 and 2 made a lot of money. So if someone comes to you and says, here's Robocop 3. All right, Peter Weller's not in it. But that's kind of a known quantity. It's kind
it wasn't shitty. Like, I watched Robocop 2 recently. It's fucking really good. Is it better than 1? No, but it's still pretty good.
Right.
It's not bad.
I just remember the kid from 3, though. I don't even remember the plot.
Yeah, it's awful. It's them
I remember
fucking
the jetpack
around in caves, and the people are rising up against the corporation. It's a real shit sandwich. You know what I noticed about this guy Fred Decker though, which interesting though, is that he wrote House 2. He wrote If Looks Could Kill. That's the story by him. Which that's a Richard Grieco film, I think.
Yeah. He
wrote Ricochet actually, which was kind of one of Denzel's earlier films. Denzel Washington, 1991. Remember John Lithgow?
Yeah.
That's pretty early on.
Yeah.
Wrote some Tales from the Script. Wrote Star Trek Enterprise.
And Tales from the Script. Is that the documentary? Is that the documentary on Tales from the Crypt?
There actually is a Tales from the Script.
Is there
a documentary about screenwriting?
There's Lloyd Kaufman has a film called Tales from the Crapper. That's a pretty good one.
Nice.
But he wrote 2 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise, or 3 actually. Vox Sola, Sleeping Dogs, and the Andorian Incident.
The Andorian Incident wasn't bad. That was one of the very few Star Trek Enterprise episodes that was, because they started to get in. They had all the other series had covered like the Klingons, they had covered the Vulcans. Enterprise started to get into the Andorians and some of the other minor races that, bottom line, it wasn't very good. I mean, as Star Trek goes, Enterprise was not the best. Not the best.
But it is interesting, though. He's getting writing gigs, but if I'm looking at this, I don't know the situation. Maybe he was getting a ton of offers, but if I'm looking at just the data, it looks like, he was sliding into more of a writer position, 6 years between films, and maybe they go, Robocop 3? And he's like, yes, please. And then there's like nothing after it. I
mean, he could have been just like, directed Monster Squad, directed Night of the Creeps. Maybe he realized, not really digging directing that much. I like writing more. Right. So, and then it's like, okay, we'll come up with Robocop 3. It's like, it's going to be a nice little paycheck. Will you direct it? Yeah, I'll take a nice little paycheck.
How could you not do it?
I would do it. I mean,
because it's like, hey, here's $1 million. It's like, fuck, that's more. It's because it's going to be more than he's going to get paid to write.
Yeah.
And so let me, direct this thing. It's probably going to suck. I'll just do it anyways. But to me, like, just based off of Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad, he gets like a career pass for me.
Oh, he's great. And James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, one of his first films that he directed, because he wrote Romeo and Juliet for Troma, but he didn't direct.
He wrote that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He started at Troma, which is pretty hot actually.
James Gunn.
James
Guardians
Gunn.
of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
big director. Started at Troma first.
And one of
Yeah.
his first feature films was Slither,
Huh.
which was definitely influenced by Night of the Creeps.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's basically the same film, with Michael Rooker, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So,
It's funny. I watched Dawn of the Dead, the remake, last night, which was written by James Gunn.
right.
And it was directed by Zack Snyder. It's funny. It's just like these two guys now are like the hottest comic book directors.
Didn't Trey Parker and those guys also have some stuff with Troma?
Yeah, Cannibal the musical they made independently, but no major studio would buy it, and no distributor they liked, and so they went with Troma. And
So Lloyd's been working with a whole bunch of really.
Yeah, he's not quite Roger Corman, but he definitely has started a couple dozen pretty amazingly famous people. If you really went through, he's got a lot of first films. It's not I think he did Sizzle Beach with Kevin Costner. I think they acquired that film. I'm not sure that they made Sizzle Beach with Kevin Costner,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But Lloyd is accredited, I think, with helping produce Rocky.
Yeah, he is.
So that dude's been around,
Yeah.
Oh, he's the same fucking age as Stallone, isn't he? He's about 70.
I'm not sure how old is Stallone. Right
Stallone's about
like
70.
Yeah, he's getting close. He's mid to late 60s.
Yeah, I think late 60s, yeah. So within, I think, probably a year or two. That's hilarious.